it turns out, guys, sometimes it's advantageous, meaning better, to distribute. And in this particular lesson, that's what we're going to do. Okay? I had seen somebody last week. So here's the thing, guys. When it's not convenient to divide both sides by this number, for example, let's say that number is 3 and this number over here is 7. Well, we didn't want to do 7 over 3. I'm going to get a fraction. So when it's not convenient to divide, we will distribute, which is why we spend a whole day on distributive property. So for today's lesson, we will be distributing that in. And in fact, when I give you guys a worksheet, the first thing I want you to do for each problem, and I'm going to do it myself, but you're not going to work each individual problem out at a time. You're going to distribute for the first step for every single problem. So you're going to do the first step for each problem and then go back and solve them. Because after you distribute, then the steps are the same as we learned last week. Move all the variable terms on the left, all the constant numbers on the right, combine them, divide by the coefficient, and there's your answer. All right, so we got 3 times 7x plus 2 equals 5. So here's why we distribute, because, and thank you, yes, that is what you would do. We want to distribute because if we divided both sides by 3, we could do that, and it would work, but we would end up with a fraction on the right. We would end up with 5/3. Then we'd have to subtract 2 from that. We'd have to find a common denominator, and it ends up being more work than we need to. Remember, the goal in math is to always do it the simplest way. So when you have a problem like this, a multi-step problem, you're actually going to distribute first. So you're going to take the 3, multiply by the 7x, and then take the 3 and multiply by the positive 2. Okay, and the other side of the equation will not change. So there's step 1. All right, and we have to continue step 1. What's 3 times 7x? 21x. 3 plus 2. Okay, so there's step 1. Step 2, make sure all the variable terms are on the left side. And they are. There are no variable terms on the right. Step 3, move all the constant terms to the right. So I'm going to have to subtract 6 from both sides. So we get 21x. And I know some of you combine at this step, but if you're getting confused, I would suggest not combining anything until everything's moved to the left and right. Okay, now we can combine our variable terms, which they're already combined for step 4. Step 5, we're going to combine the constant terms. This becomes what? Negative. Good. Negative 1. 6 minus 5 would be positive 1. 5 minus 6, negative 1. Now we're just going to divide both sides by the coefficient. So notice the last 5 steps are the same as what we've learned before. The only difference for this lesson is we're distributing first, which is why when you get the worksheet, go ahead and just distribute all of them first, and then you can go ahead and solve it like a normal equation. Okay, so now we're going to divide both sides by that coefficient. What's the answer? Yeah, negative 1 over 21. There's nothing you can do. Okay, it's going to end up being a fraction. But like I said before, you can divide for the first step, but it's going to take more work. You will get the same answer. In fact, though, it's easier to go ahead and distribute. All right, so we got 6c plus 26 equals negative 8 times c plus 2. Here you really can kind of see what would happen. I'm going to erase this, but just imagine how messy it would become if you try to divide both sides by negative 8. That doesn't go into 6 or 26, and it's just going to get messy, right? Sometimes in math, you got to stop yourself. When you do a step and it's not helping you, you probably shouldn't do that step. Which is why we have step 1, which is to distribute. So we're going to distribute the negative 8 to the c and the 2. Now, again, on the left-hand side, nothing changes, okay? So it's going to drop down. Or the other side that we're not distributing. On the right, we have negative 8 times c, which is just negative 8c. and then negative 8 times 2, which is minus 16. So step 1 complete. Step 2, move all the variable terms to the left side. Can anybody tell me what to do here?
Add 8c.
There you go. So this variable term on the right needs to go to the left. Add 8c to both sides. All right, again, I think that to avoid confusion, it's better to wait till the end to combine these, but that's just me. If you guys want to go ahead and do it, just make sure that you don't make any mistakes. Now on the right, we're going to cancel these, and we're going to have negative 16.
Put x for x6.
I did put x. That should be c, right? Sorry about that. Okay, now for step 3, we're going to move all the constants to the right. So we're going to subtract 26 from both sides. So now we have 6c plus 8c equals negative 16 minus 26. Now we can combine the variable terms. What's 6c plus 8c? Good, 14c. And then we can combine the constant terms. What's negative 16 minus 26? Great, negative 42. Just add them and make them negative. Final step. Divide both sides by the variable coefficient. So we're going to divide both sides by 14. All right, and negative 42 over 14 equals negative 3. So C is equal to negative 3. Now certainly we can go back and plug that in to see if it works. If we plug in negative 3 here, we have 6 times negative 3, which is negative 18, plus 26, which is 8. So we should get 8 on the other side. If we plug in negative 3 here, we get negative 3 plus 2, which is negative 1 times negative 8, which is positive 8. It checks out. Okay, we have 3 times b plus 6, okay, minus 5b equals 18 minus 8b. So the difference you might notice right offhand is we have the variable on the same side as the distribution, which is fine, because if you follow the steps, you'll still get the right answer. So this will be our final example, and then I'll get you the assignment. So first step is we're going to distribute. So that'll be 3b. And then what's 3 times 6? 18. Now, everything else stays the same. So we still have minus 5b equals 18 minus 8b. Okay, yes, good. So we want to move all the variable terms to the left side. So we're going to take this minus 8b, move it to the left. To do that, we need to add it. And again, and here's one of the reasons why I don't combine. Because look, we've got 3 terms over there. It's going to be hard to keep track of that for right now with that 18 in the middle. So I'm not going to combine any terms. I'm just going to rewrite everything. We'll worry about that later. I mean, it's easy just to move stuff around, right? It's hard to get that confused as long as you're consistent. Those will cancel, and then I have 18. Okay, so that's step 2. We've got all the variable terms on the left, which is actually 3 of them. Now we're going to take all the constant terms and move them to the right. So we need to take that 18, which is a constant, subtract it. Now 18 minus 18 is 0. And that's going to cancel on the right, on the left. So we have 3b plus 8b minus 5b equals 0. So yeah, I still think it's just better not to combine until the end. I think you're less likely to make a mistake. So you guys try that this time. Now we're going to combine the variable terms. So we have 3 plus 8 minus 5. Thank you, 6.
Yeah, 3 plus 8 is 11 minus 5 is 6.
So we get 6b equals 0. So this is to combine all the constant terms on the right, but we always have a 0. So now we can move to step 6, which is divide both sides by the coefficient. So we're going to divide both sides by what? 6. Now let me ask you guys something. Is 0 over 6 undefined or 0? Good. When 0 is on the top, the answer is 0. Now this one we should be able to easily check. If we plug 0 back into the original equation, we'd have 3 times 6, which is 18, minus 5 times 0, which is 0. On the right, we'd have 18 minus 0, so we get 18 equals 18, and it would check out. Any other questions about these?